Thank you for choosing to watch the Watchman News Headlines video. Our full episodes can now be seen over at Patreon with much more added content for just $2 a month. Link is in the description. If you cannot afford $2 a month, please consider using our Amazon affiliate link, purchasing from our Teespring store, or making a PayPal donation. All links are below. In order for us to grow, we have to make changes to enable it. Our time is valuable, and we have been one of the very few news sources actually dedicated to bringing you honest, hard-hitting, actionable news and information. Plus, for your $2 a month, you do not have to hear me blabber about these links. It's a win for us all.
Bullshit.
Thank you. Good evening, Watchmen and Watchwomen of YouTube. So I've got some progress to report and a cute picture to show you. And then we can get into the headlines. We talked tonight about the State of the Union. And unfortunately, our government apparently isn't going to give us a State of the Union, so we took it upon ourselves. And I think, I think I made some good points. And it's not any of the points that I haven't made many times before. But, consolidating them and talking about them at one time certainly brought clarity to the situation, which is not a good situation. But as I was telling the patrons, where we go next is completely reliant upon us on two levels, though, as a nation and as individuals, because everything that we do as individuals becomes the nation. Okay, so if a majority of the people decide that they want to do what it takes to actually make this country great again, not just a slogan, then we can make it happen. But for that to happen, it's going to take a majority of us as individuals to work together as a nation to be able to make that happen. Right now, things don't look good for that. Hell, you can't get people to even get along good enough to work together. So, it's a lot of food for thought and all of that. And I hope, I certainly don't hope to see demise of the nation, but my outlook's just not that great. It's just not. Like I was telling the patrons, we need a shaking. The pandemic was not a shaking. We need a shaking to wake up and realize the value of other human beings and the value of hard work to make this nation something great. I think we lost that. We lost sight of that a long time ago. But anyway, let me continue on before I get huffed more. So anyway, looks like I'm going to be starting on the Coleman stove project a little sooner than expected. Tomorrow I will be getting my wire brushes and the black heat paint to get started on the project. So I'm not saying I'm going to start on the project tomorrow, but I'll have the supplies to get started on it tomorrow. I did go out today and I put a rack up outside that I'm going to use to be able to paint and hang the parts to dry. And I also moved our table out back. I'm going to use our patio table to do the wire brushing and sanding and all that stuff on. I've got some wooden pieces I'm going to put on top of it. I'm not going to destroy our patio table, but I've got some wood pieces I'm going to put on top of it and be able to do all that work. So I already went out there and got my workstations set up, ready to go, almost ready to go. And I'll be getting supplies tomorrow. I don't know what date I'll start. Again, there'll be snippets that I'll put up on YouTube, but the majority of it, the detailed work of it, will be over on YouTube. On Patreon. It's just the way it is. So I do encourage people to join up over there. It's going to be an interesting, fun project, and it's going to be starting with the teardown, and that's probably going to be within a week. I'll be starting that teardown. And then I'm going to be getting into it and getting it completed as quickly as possible. So this is just the start of what I need. I'm going to need some more paint, some different colors of paint, and then I'm going to need whatever items I need to actually do the repairs and rebuild it. So, but I'm going to do it as quickly as I can. But anyway, let me show you the cuteness picture here. So I took that. That actually was a screen grab from a video from earlier. I was testing out my wide-angle lens for the Pocket 2 camera, which, by the way, kind of a failure. It's real blurry. It sucks. That screen grab isn't with that lens on. I want to make that clear. But anyway, it was such an awesome way that she looked up at me, and I thought, I got to grab a screenshot out of that video. So that's actually a screenshot from the video. That's pretty crazy clarity there for a screenshot from a video. But anyway, let's do some headlines so I can close this up and put a bow on it. Starting out with a article that I did share out last night. Israeli jets escort American B-52 bombers in apparent show of force to Iran. And then we jump to articles from this morning. Hourglass running out, sand becoming scarce, world overdue to soaring demand. Biden preparing to launch series of clandestine cyber attacks against Russia, says the New York Times. Hey, look, if you want a grid down scenario, there you go. I mean, this is insane. This is insane, especially coming out and announcing it. That's even more insane. But, if we actually do something substantial to Russia, what are they going to do in retaliation? I mean, literally poking the bear. Let's see. How British state tries to weaponize Russian speakers in Baltics as agents of change in operation to weaken Moscow. That apparently has been exposed. Attack on world's largest crude terminal in Saudi Arabia sends oil surging to 13-month high. Now you notice it didn't say because Biden became president. Okay? I don't get that. I really don't get that. New Zealand makes Pfizer its primary vaccine supplier after AstraZeneca jab concerns. London promises students won't miss out on education if they refuse to wear a mask as schools reopen after COVID closures. Let's see. Abolish the monarchy trends after Meghan's tell-all with Oprah sparks Twitter revolt. And I saw a meme, and it's kind of accurate. There's nothing like people like members of the royal family and Oprah talking about being oppressed. Is that not crazy? The hell with all the rest of us, but we need to be concerned about their oppression. China pledges to build Polar Silk Road, at whichever you choose, by developing Arctic shipping routes. Minneapolis battens down the hatches with extreme security ahead of trial of George Floyd's alleged killer. That trial has been delayed because they want to, I guess, bring back the third-degree murder charge. I'm assuming, and replace the second-degree murder charge with the third-degree murder charge. That is only going to incite more unrest. You know, the timing of all of this, again, and I've said this before with other cases, the timing of all of this is really interesting. You know, being that it's warming up, you know, and, a lot of people don't like to protest and riot in the cold. And it's just interesting the timing that they choose to do all this and how they choose to do it. It almost seems like they're wanting the unrest, and I'm sure they are. I have no doubt that the powers that be want the unrest. Philippines human rights watchdog launches investigation after 9 activists killed in anti-communist raids. France warns it could make COVID jabs compulsory for health workers amid unacceptable uptake. In other words, the healthcare workers are saying, no, we don't want it. And so France is about to say, well, you don't have a choice. I think you're going to see the same thing here because our vaccination rates are not very high. And it's not because they don't have the vaccines. It's because of the hesitancy. I can't blame them. Brussels deploys plainclothes police officers to sexually harassment hotspots where nearly 80% of women fear leaving home. Serbian president and family illegally wiretapped over 1,500 times, including by high-ranking officials, an investigation reveals. 3 police injured, SWAT vehicle damaged, and local cars flipped as Colorado University party turns violent. I talked about this a little bit in our little State of the Union thing, and this was 800 people at a party. 800 people at a party. Can you imagine tens of thousands? You know, people in this country, at least some, don't really know what unrest is. They haven't seen it yet. There's been claims of it. You got the left claiming that what happened in the Capitol building was akin to 9/11. No, not nearly. Not nearly. People don't know unrest in this country yet. I think they're about to see it. 800 people. 3 officers injured. SWAT vehicle damaged. This summer, I think more people might find out what unrest really is. We'll see. We'll see. It all depends on how the government plays their cards with this COVID stuff and a lot of other factors too. Thailand slashes its mandatory quarantine for vaccinated tourists to 7 days. Call me when you're 18. New Barca president Laporta clarifies out of context election video with female fan. Syria's President Bashar Assad and wife test positive for COVID-19. COVID-19 passport trials. Singapore Airlines to test digital health ID for flights to London. EU to lose up to 100 billion euros due to vaccination failures, wary investors, and no sign of reopening, says the media. Israel begins vaccinating Palestinian workers against COVID-19 after delays and international condemnation. The AI of the beholder algorithm can now learn which faces you find attractive from your brainwaves. China flagged trawler runs aground off Mauritius, sparking concerns about potentially devastating oil leaks. And I'm sure I said the name wrong. Hong Kong authorities probe hospitalizations that occurred days after people received the Sinovac COVID jab. Italy, the latest EU government to approve AstraZeneca's COVID vaccine for over 65s as efficacy fears subside. Saudi military chief accuses Iran of supplying missiles used by Houthis to strike its oil facilities. Majority in England and Wales won't hesitate to get COVID jab, but survey finds under 30s and black adults most reluctant. EU criticizes Belgium's blanket COVID-19 travel ban and wants it replaced with more targeted measures. Doctors finally locate source of foul smell unleashed by teen every time he blew his nose for 8 years. Yeah, and I'll let you in on the secret. So apparently, and this kind of the story read a little bit weird. Apparently, this kid was shot with a BB gun and had a BB embedded in his nose. And why this was never brought up to the doctor, because, okay, he went to the doctor because he lost the sense of smell. And when the doctor, looked and they looked into it, there was a bunch of swelling and all of that. And so they gave him medication and stuff like that. Well, the kid came back a year later, and complained of the same things, along with this horrible odor every time he blew his nose. And so it was finally then, after the doctor had done, I think it was some type of a CAT scan, x-ray, something, that they found the BB. And it wasn't until then that I guess the family said, oh, well, yeah, he was shot in the nose with a BB that's still in his nose. It's just real weird. Why wasn't that mentioned like 8 years prior? Anyway, 2 more protesters reportedly killed by Myanmar military after workers begin general strike against coup. Actually, backing up a little bit, I have to ask the question whether or not the family was responsible for that BB being embedded into his nose. EU's von der Leyen threatens further COVID vaccine export controls and says AstraZeneca supplied less than 10% of agreed jabs. I don't believe a word she says. Piers Morgan torched on Twitter for skepticism about Meghan Markle's alleged suicidal thoughts. Dutch company unleashes automated drone strikes to protect crops from moths. So that's kind of interesting, using drones to protect crops from moths. That's wild. Dozens arrested at Dutch anti-lockdown protest as demonstrators carried mock coffin mourning demise of democracy. Pepe Le Pew canceled from Space Jam sequel as Sleazy Skunk has his own Me Too moment. Getting ridiculous, and as I've said a million times, it's not going to stop until we stop it. We can stop it. It's not going to be pretty, and there's going to be a lot of backlash, but it's got to stop. Or what are they not going to take? You know what I mean? They will take everything. They will take everything. It's not going to stop. And as long as we just let them take it, I'm telling you, we will all be just mindless, gutless, same people, same beings, because we won't know what it means to have individuality. We won't be allowed to have individuality. We better stop it. Again, it's not going to be pretty. There's going to be a lot of hurt feelings and probably a lot of hurt other stuff. It's going to be ugly. I'm looking at the bigger picture and I'm seeing what's going on here. And with what they've already been able to get away with, man, it's not a good trend. I'll say that. Trump officially loses last Supreme Court battle over 2020 election fraud. Where's Biden hiding? Even CNN begins asking questions as president goes record time without press conference with Q&A. And every time he says he's going to take questions, the camera feed goes dead. We said inshallah. I don't know how to say that. U.S. sanctions fail to prevent Iran from selling record amount of crude to energy-hungry China. Italy hits 100,000 COVID-19 deaths as new PM Draghi urges public to follow health measures amid worsening emergency. Death toll rises to 98 after series of blasts at Equatorial Guinea military base. Sputnik 5 deal signed, Italy to become first EU country to produce Russian COVID-19 vaccine. CDC granting vaccinated Americans limited freedoms, as MSM puts it, met with claims of government overreach. Flu-like illness, an expected side effect of COVID vaccines, says WHO, with symptoms including fever and headaches. Ex-Fed head Yellen discovers income inequality and laments COVID-19's impact on women. Yeah, because it's, not the same for men. Urban Dictionary restores blue anon after censorship backlash over new label for left-wing conspiracy theorists. Academics rank Western world's misery index post-COVID response. UK and Spain end up floundering at the bottom. The time has come. New York's GOP lawmakers launch bid to impeach Governor Cuomo over sexual harassment allegations. This is what generals look like. Biden promotes female commanders and creates Gender Policy Council to mark Women's Day. Wyoming becoming latest state to end mandatory face coverings as GOP continues defiance of Biden's COVID-19 mask push. Gab goes offline after refusing to pay hackers and accuses Biden administration and oligarch tyrants of wanting to shut them down. Biden administration grants temporary protection to thousands of Venezuelan migrants and admits U.S. sanctions failed to spur regime change. And we do have a number 1 up there. South Dakota passes bill banning biological males from participating in female sports to mark Women's Day. So there you go. There you go. That's the headlines. There weren't a whole lot of them today. There just weren't. But you got them. Anyway, I hope to see y'all tomorrow. God willing, we'll be back tomorrow. As always, God bless you. We love you. Be one with your spirit. And shalom.